Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Humans of EdTech. And today we have with you what we call as the hint stones. I think it's a practical guide to design hints in modern LMSs. So I think it's a very small topic, so to speak, but I think it is a very important implication on how people go about using or not using the software going forward. So let's just quickly jump into this particular thing. Right, Hintstones. I think it is popularly inspired from Flintstones, but that's what we have. So quickly moving ahead, I think what we're going to look at today is what is a good hint, what is a hint, where do you find, what are the stages of the hint, and some of the hint design trade-offs, and how do hints and gamifications typically go together. So I think it's a really preliminary introduction kind of a video, and what I really want to bring over here is I think in my experience, or I'm sure in your experience of having used multiple edtech platforms, various learning platforms for various skills, whether they were dominantly video based, learn by doing, or typically even consuming content. I'm sure you must have come across this particular element, and dominantly in the assessments or the questionnaire or the quiz part of it, but it is also equally relevant when you are doing some amount of concept building or learning aspect of it. So we'll just quickly jump into this particular part. Right. So what is the hint? And hint is basically I think a slight indication or suggestion. It just nudges you, it pushes you, that kind of a thing. I think it has a very critical function. So when anyone is picking up a skill, they are learning a language, which typically is a function of developing some amount of understanding, having a fair amount of muscle memory going into it, they will get stuck. And getting stuck is not a bad thing. Getting stuck is a good thing. What is important when you get stuck is that you struggle it out, you slug it out, and you actually overcome that part where you either follow the typical read, ask, search kind of a method, where you read about it, you searched about it, you asked people how do you solve this particular thing, and that really internalizes, drills it down deeper, or and both. You used a relevant hint that was available or that was facilitated to you by the subject matter expert in that particular case. In a very physical classroom kind of a context, we typically see a lot of people getting stuck. And when they are stuck, we want to just show them the right direction, or show them a direction where they are able to free themselves up and apply once again. Not necessarily give them an answer, because giving them an answer is making them lazy. It's about developing that mental pathway that okay, there's going to be someone who's going to give me an answer, and that comfort is not good. So a hint essentially serves the same purpose. It impacts two very important things. One is the learner, the learning outcomes, the academic side of things, and second is if you have a self-paced platform, or for that matter even a guided platform, it somewhere has a very deep impact on adoption. It has an impact on the revenue consideration that typically your product is able to generate. Awesome. So quickly moving on from here, what is a good hint? How does it look like? So a good hint is deceptively difficult to build. You need to have a very strong understanding of how the learning typically happens in the mind of the user, and where exactly is this person stuck. That is when a good hint can actually be built. So that's where good hints are built by really awesome mentors, instructors, or subject matter experts. Because they know, they have the experience of having taught the same topic online or a classroom environment. A good hint typically adds more information. It reduces the cognitive load. It makes you, I would not say think less, but okay, it takes away that stress, that anxiety, that now you know a little bit more, and maybe I think you're able to either unlock an application lever, or you're able to try a few things extra where you might be able to reach the answer. It may be single step, it may be multi-step. A good hint is not an answer, and this is the most common pattern that you will see in a lot of online coding platforms where um, you know your task is basically to declare an array, but the hint is basically, okay, declare an array with elements a, b and c, and they actually write out the whole syntax. You just need to is instead of is, you just need to put the equal to sign and the things are done. It is not a question. It's not a rhetorical question. It doesn't add to the confusion, or it is not leading or anything of that sort. It's a simple piece of information which just adds partially to the end goal or the objective or the task on hand. And it definitely cannot be confusing. It cannot be cryptic. It has to be something more straightforward. But you will be surprised to find this anti-pattern very, very frequently across multiple things. I'm really tempted to put screenshots over here, but I'm just staying away from a lot of these things. Right. Where are these hints? In the learning management system, in an online system, they are in the product. Either when you are solving something, whether you are coding something, and my background and my input and my expertise is largely on coding platforms or people where they learn technology, either by watching videos about learning or solving things. So it can be in the product, in those assignments, whether it is true or false, whether it is multiple choice questions. That's where the hints typically can come in. When you're coding, it can come as a prompt where the instructor encourages you to pause and say that why don't you now go and take this particular assignment on your own. And I think you can always keep on continuing and then see what the whole thing is all about. And this can also definitely be in the quiz. Hints are not only restricted to the online environment, but if you are beyond and outside the product, say in a Slack channel or email, or you're using some sort of a Telegram group and you're using some sort of a bot, even those particular places where you find a lot of these hints at play, especially in Slack channels where you have a moderated support, and that's part of the offering. The good teaching assistants should be instructed to only share hints, should be instructed to pinpoint to resources, but not give out the answers, and that should be the practice. And that's what you see in some of the portals. In a lot of peer group driven channels, Slack channels, Discord groups, servers, and Telegram groups, this is not really a practice because the design and the control is totally inverted. It's with the audience, it's with the people who are actually driving the community. So there it cannot be enforced. But bots, Slack channels where you have only publish only threads or Q&A kind of parts, I think this is very much kind of enforceable. So hints are all over the place. They are not just so typically the idea is hints are in a quiz or in an assessment, but hints are everywhere. They are there even while you learn. Hints can be single stage, hint can be multi-stage. We saw pause as a hint. This is something very, very popular. A very popular coding platform called Escriba also does this particular part. Hints can be while concept building, while doing a deep dive, while reinforcing, while doing revisions, and of course while doing assessments. So you have, when you're designing material which you want people to absorb, you don't want just people taking assessments and then receiving hints and getting stuck. Even while articulating a concept, you want to put together a concept in their mind and then ask a question and pause and then have people come back and think through those kind of things. So they're absolutely everywhere. At Grey Atom we have implemented this at a few places, and it's a very interesting such intriguing practice. I think here the hint is more about adding assistance to the learning aspect, adding a simulation, adding a visual intuition. So maybe changing the form factor of how you do things, but introducing some sort of a pause. More effectively done, of course, in the assessment part of it, but can be also introduced in some of the other stages. This is a mental model that I want to bring over here. I of course don't have data to go through each of these things, But I'm just proposing some vocabulary over here. Number one is goodness of hint. If the hint is you know very very ineffective, like too easy, or the hint is too cryptic, so basically there is some sort of a goodness of hint, where I think the hint has to be just hinty enough, if I might say. It has to be just good enough, just the right quantity. What kind of a learning outcomes can this particular hint drive? And again, this is a mental model. This is like everything else remaining the same. We can maybe think about these three variables and look at these three variables. And the last is adoption, appropriation of the platform, of the online learning environment. So what we have over here is three different models, where you have the hint on one particular side, and second is the learning outcomes, and third is the revenue. So one is a economic consideration, and second is a learner outcome kind of a consideration. And what I've just written over here is that if the hints are too cryptic, the learning outcomes are going to be poor, and the adoption may be poor, mid to high, and that's mid to high is bad. The hints are just right, the learning outcomes can be high, and the repeat usage of the product can be high. If the hint is a solution, the learning outcomes can be low, but the adoption can be very high, because you might feel, the learner might get a feeling that he or she is learning really very fast. So this is the thing that I really want to point out over here, that hint as a solution can have some implication on the revenue side, in fact a very positive implication on the revenue side, but the learning outcomes do suffer in this particular case. Awesome. I think this is one question that does pop up. Hints and gamification are very tightly linked, where should you be giving a penalty for using hint, so on and so forth. So here is a perspective. Gamification is not your core product. Gamification is not your core value proposition. Gamification has multiple purposes, and that's a separate topic in itself, but it's not your core product. Your content is your core. From looking at only the academic and the learning outcome kind of a lens, your content is something that is going to drive outcomes at the end of the day for the learner. The experience fabric that you build, the experience fabric is right from the person comes in to the person checks out, and even beyond that, how you touch the user in multiple ways, whether it is web notifications, whether it is emails, whether it is reminders, whether it is the welcome that you give that person once they are in, and the whole experience fabric within the static screen also. That is a determinant of how the learning outcome is going to be, how the pleasantness of the experience is going to be. So those are the key things. But gamification is not your core value prop. During learning, having a hint and having a penalty for it, for using it or not using it, can actually have some sort of a confounding effect. And you typically cover a small body of work, and then you ask a question, and then you ask for some sort of a response to it, and the person is not able to give it, and you give a penalty. So that's probably not the best thing to do, because the person is, maybe you don't know what is the motivation level, or what is the level with respect to expertise, stage and state of the learner. So it definitely confounds. Assessments, it has a use case. My personal understanding, feeling is that you may want to keep it out. If it is assessments to basically just gauge the learning levels and give a feedback, a formative feedback to the learner. If it is part of a test/exam or a benchmarking process, then maybe I think there's a very different question. But if it is part of the learning process, where you're just testing and just trying to help establish some sort of a baseline, then I think it, again, for me, it's not the best kind of a experience. I have a flip question over here. When the product has bugs, and the learners typically take screenshots and report it to the vendor or the company or the instructor, do the learners get points? I'm not talking about bug bounty over here, but do the learner get the gamified points that you have come up with? No. So the thing over here is that hint design is a serious academic discipline. It's not to be trivialized and mixed with Gamification, badges, levels, motivations, peer-to-peer communication, fabric. I think it's a very detailed discipline. I think it has its place, not trivializing it, not sidestepping it, but hint design is a more academic consideration. Awesome. That's it, guys. So quickly moving on from here on. So we looked at what hint design is. What are some of the ways? What is a good hint? How does good hint affect the learning outcomes, the revenue part of it, and what is it that you can do with respect to putting together a decent hint when you're next time designing a lesson, chapter, or the whole system, or if you're a product designer and you're putting this thing together, or if you're an instructional designer and you are understanding, deciding how to, when to, why to put these hints. Maybe I think this may help you ask a few questions to yourself. Awesome. Next time we are going to look at some spaced repetition algorithms. I think there is a body of algorithms that is available with respect to how do people memorize, retention, and how does that typically lead to learning outcomes. It's a topic that has been researched very extensively for a period of time. We're going to look at a few algorithms. It's going to be an interesting session. So I look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for joining in. If you have any other inputs, let me know. Happy to hear back from you, and keep on building more interesting stuff for EdTech. Thank you so much. Bye.